Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Saturday night live late night call-in show. Anyway, we got a lot of news to cover tonight. This MS-13 story just keeps popping up again and again and again. Unfortunately, it's probably going to keep popping up. This was a body that was found in a shallow grave in Long Island. It was actually, the crime was committed, I believe, 2 years ago, and they just now found the body. It was dug. It was in a shallow grave, like you see there in Long Island Nature Preserve in Nassau County. Basically, like the Hamptons and stuff. That's Port Jefferson, Stony Brook State University in New York. That's Suffolk County. Right next to it, Nassau County. Then you go from there, you go into Queens, Brooklyn, etc. And unfortunately, it kind of MS-13 kind of took a hold there in Long Island. That's where a lot of the immigrant communities were. And most of the victims of MS-13 crimes are fellow immigrants, fellow migrants. And so a lot of times when you hear these people saying, "Oh, we care about the immigrants, we care about the migrants," but if you're not properly vetting these people when they come through, like those two children, again, you shouldn't be defined as a child by how old you are. I think one kid was 15, the other kid was 16, and they killed a 14-year-old. First I believe with a baseball bat, and then chopped up with a machete while she was still alive. And because they don't just kill the victims, they kill the victim in such a way to send a message to other people saying, "Hey, we're not just going to kill you. It's like we're not just going to kill you and eat you. It's like we're not just going to kill you. We're going to chop you up in little pieces and make you suffer, while you die. It's not going to be a quick hit. Nobody's going to walk up and shoot you from, behind the back of the head or anything." And that's a real disgusting thing. And, meanwhile, the story that you saw in the description, I put in there, a federal Judge Gilliam, Hayward Gilliam. Hey, Shonda, how you doing there, young lady? Judge Hayward Gilliam, a Barack President Obama appointee from 2014, who replaced a former I believe a Jimmy Carter appointee, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, he clerked for a Jimmy Carter appointee before he got appointed to this position here. And, basically when I read the decision, I printed out, it was a 56-page decision. I read through it, several different points and statutes they take up. And pretty much what you see in there is a really well-written decision. Just when I say well-written, I don't mean like he came to the right conclusions. I'm saying it was well-written in that he covered his ass really good. And judges are people too. He knew this is good. He knows obviously the Justice Department, the Solicitor General's office is going to take this up on appeal. He's trying to make for a really good record. But basically, he comes down to the fact that saying, well, Congress, and I'll get to this in a few minutes, but basically, good deal, Shonda. But basically saying that, Congress, they put in there, okay, the emergency declaration can be used for this reason, the money can be used to shift around for this reason, and they put in there also for, I believe the exact language was, other activity. And the reason why Congress left that vague, because they're leaving it open for unforeseen circumstances. And he seemed to come down to the fact, goes, well, I'm sure Congress never had in his mind that, this other activity would include, building a border barrier. Well, that's the whole point. That's why you put in there other activity. And it's not, and it's not just that like the whole nation is falling to pieces and you can't foresee something like that, because built into the statute is a way for Congress to undo what the president's doing, and he references that throughout the decision. So it wasn't like Congress said other activity, we're going to limit it to just kind of along the same lines of what we said you can use it for. In other words, things that we've come across up till today, issues we have up till today. And the statute was written back in '76, been amended a couple of times since, but it is unforeseen circumstance that we would have this kind of crisis, whereas in the last 4 months, they've taken in more asylum seekers in 3 months rather than all of last year combined. So, I mean, obviously, hey, Jervis, how you doing there, Jervis? So obviously that's an unforeseen circumstance, and that's why Congress put in their other activity. And so did they foresee having to build a border barrier? Did they foresee this kind of immigration crisis where Congress wouldn't be able to act for whatever reason? And that's the whole point of the statute. It wasn't that Congress, like a nuclear war happens and Congress is out of session and nobody can find any congressmen because they're all dead. The zombie apocalypse kind of situation. In fact, basically, and I'll get to it a little bit later, but basically he's saying it's like, he's thinking like Congress wrote this in case of a zombie apocalypse, and one of the things they didn't want was like a border barrier. But no, Congress, when they wrote other activity in there, they wrote it for unforeseen circumstances as they were drafting the bill, so the president can have a free hand to move resources and money around, and he comes to the conclusion, well, they never foresaw that. Well, that's what they wrote in other activity. And of course, he doesn't want to say, well, yeah, That's why they did it. And of course, Congress has a remedy. Congress can always stop the president if they're doing if his activity is so crazy that you can definitely get 2/3 of the House and the Senate to vote against it and have a veto-proof majority in both houses. So I don't understand. Well, I understand where he's coming from. He just wanted to stop the wall from being built. That's where he's coming from. But as far as saying that Congress, I mean, the Congress didn't have to write other activity, or they could have written in other activity similar to what we just said you could use it for. No, they wrote in there for unforeseen circumstances where Congress wouldn't be able to act, not because Congress wasn't in session or because Congress it was a zombie apocalypse and you can't find any Congress people to vote. They wrote in there for other activity for things that Congress, because of political reasons or whatever, couldn't get the job done. And so they gave the president the ability to get things done where the Congress wasn't able, because of political reasons, to get it done, and the president could act. And he just kind of totally ignored all that. He just threw that out. He just basically 2 lines. He just says, well, they never foresaw border barriers being built. Well, yeah, that's why they wrote in other activity. And again, assuming, and Congress wrote this, assuming Congress would still be in session, it wasn't the zombie apocalypse, and Congress could always correct a situation from an out-of-control president. Because, let's be honest, if Trump just was out of control and did something stupid, like declares a national emergency, says we're going to invade France, well, I mean, you Republicans would jump ship in 2 seconds. Well, we'd all jump ship, and the nation would jump ship on the president and say, hey, no. And we would tell our representatives, hey, vote this down and end it right now. And sure enough, they would go in 2/3 in both houses. We'd all support that if you had a president going completely nuts. But if he's doing a policy that's needed to be done and you can't muster 2/3, maybe you come close, but you can't muster, then obviously it's something that needs to be done. And there is an overwhelming opposition to it in the country where there's a huge consensus that this shouldn't happen. And we'll get to that. But this MS-13, meanwhile, while he sits in his ivory tower of the U.S. District Court in Northern District, California, meanwhile, down at the border, things are only getting worse. And this first story, we'll cover this right now. MS-13 blamed for body found in shallow grave in Long Island Nature Preserve. Again, this body being found just comes on the heel of the story from Maryland, again, with the 2 children. One of them came across as an unaccompanied minor during the Obama administration. These 2 children decided to hack somebody up with a machete and kill her. Anyway, let's go here. All right, so from the Washington Times, Andrew Blake. Authorities on Saturday blamed a Salvadoran gang for another body discovered in a shallow grave in Long Island, New York. Officials said during a press conference that a body found Friday afternoon at the Massapequa Preserve in Nassau County was believed to be an MS-13 murder victim. Police in Nassau County have found nearly a dozen bodies since 2016 belonging to suspected MS-13 victims, Commissioner Patrick J. Ryder said during the press conference. We believe it was a gang issue back in 2016, he told reporters. This war, if you will, that took place in 2016 and 2017, we recovered close to 11 victims, all or most buried in shallow graves in Nassau County. We believe at this time we've recovered all the victims that have been part of our investigation. And let's just kind of say what time of day it is here. Okay, this war started in 2016. Well, the Obama administration wasn't doing anything about it, wasn't providing any kind of support to the local law enforcement. Nassau County, Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, I mean, these are pretty quiet locations for the most part. They don't have, it's not like, LAPD or NYPD. They're not big law enforcement agencies. They're just not. Generally, people in those areas kind of police themselves. So when they got hit with all these MS-13 crimes, they overwhelmed them. And they were kind of at a loss. And, of course, the Obama administration wasn't into deporting anybody at that time. And they were like, and they weren't supporting these people. And so this thing started in 16, it carried through into 17, and lo and behold, guess who becomes president in 2017? Yay, President Trump. And if you notice, they don't say the war continued on to 2018. You notice they don't say that. The war was in 2016 and 17. And, of course, when these local law enforcement officials were going on the news, reporting what was going on in their neighborhoods, mainstream media, of course, was silent. They were totally silent about this. The only people covering it was Fox. Tucker Carlson was covering it. Tucker Carlson had, like, the Nassau County, Suffolk County sheriffs on air, on, live interviews discussing the problem. Of course, the mainstream media was silent because, of course, that doesn't fit their narrative. Just like, this killing in Maryland. That's gruesome. See, it's not just about the ratings. People say, some apologists for the mainstream media will say, they're just trying to get ratings, and that's why they do this. No, it's not just about the ratings, because let's be honest, that's a gruesome killing. There's a ratings story right there for you. If all they wanted were ratings, they would have covered that story to the hilt and said, "Oh, look at this," and it would have been the body, and they would have showed the family and the crying and the tears and all this other stuff, and they would have showed a big, expose on MS-13 with the tattoos and stuff, and yeah, they would have got their ratings. But no, it's not just about ratings with CNN or MSNBC. It's about telling their narrative. The narrative that immigrants are peaceful, they're peace loving, for some reason they think like immigrants, illegal immigrants coming across the border somehow leaves their human nature behind. We're all human beings. We all have the ability to do good or do bad. So the problem I have with the mainstream media is that they don't recognize that these people have the ability to do bad, just like everybody else does. I mean, they're not human, okay? They're not like robots where they just have the good card, plugged into them and they just do good things. No, you get good people coming across, you get bad people coming across. I just wish they do a balanced approach to it and say, okay, we have some good, hey, black and Irish, crazy chick Sheena, how you doing there, young lady? But yeah, I just wish they'd give a balanced report. So when you have bad people come across, they say, oh, these are some bad people. But they won't do that because then we can say, hey, look, obviously bad people are coming in with the bad, and we need to slow this down. We're not vetting them properly. We need to change the law that provides that we can hold them longer than 20 days when they come across. We need to change the asylum laws, so much so that you say if you want to claim asylum and you have a consulate or an embassy in your country, you have to go there first and apply and wait in your country while that goes through. Or, worst case scenario, go to the first country you come to and claim asylum there. For these people, it would either be, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico. The first major, there's a country right there. You could go right there and claim asylum. But you don't have to go. If you go to the United States, obviously you're not seeking asylum. You're not fear for your life, in Guatemala. You're not fear for your life in Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador, and you skip through Mexico and say, oh, I had to go to the United States because I was fearful for my life in my home country. Well, obviously you're not fear for your life in Mexico. Unless the Mexicans want to say Mexico's a scary place, and obviously we always hear the opposite. It's not a scary place. And plenty of people live there. In fact, a lot of the migrants, the Mexicans are hiring. I hate to tell you that, but, this recent trade deal we just did is good for both sides of the border. And again, I'm not opposed to a win-win situation. Hey, forbidden information, how you doing? Hey, low-carb mom, how you doing? I like win-win situations, and you can have a win-win situation on a trade deal, and that's what the USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada agreement is. It's a win-win for the United States and for Mexico. Not so much of a win for Canada, but then again, they decided to be assholes, and so they were late getting to the table, and they're like, oh, we're not going to talk to Trump, and the Mexicans, who you think would have more of a reason not to want to talk to Trump, because, Trump has a statement like, oh, Mexico sends us their rapists and murderers and everything else, but the Mexicans are about making money, they're about business, and they said, that the main trade representative from Mexico, while the Canadians were bitching and moaning what an evil person Trump was, that guy was in the White House. He had 42 meetings in the White House over that period of time they're negotiating that treaty. And he went to Jared Kushner's house twice for dinner with Trump's daughter. So, I mean, the Mexicans are like, okay, you guys can bitch and moan about the president all you want, but we're going to make a deal. And they did, and they got their deal done, and it was a win-win for both sides. It actually looked like, it could have been better for us, of course, okay? But then you don't have a win-win. It could have been just all in our favor and none in their favor. And then, of course, why would they want to do it? But then if they did it, then they have political problems at home. So you got to write these up in such a way that both sides can take something away from it and say they got something out of it. And Trump knows how to do that. He's been doing that for decades. He's been doing deals like that for decades. So it was a really good negotiation. But it was funny, the Canadians got left out in the cold, and Trudeau caught a lot of shit back home in Canada, especially from his farmers on that one. Because, again, they sat out. In fact, their trade representative decided to, whatever her name is, Krista Freeland, who used to write for, I think, not the BBC, but London Times, I think, or the Financial Times, and while she was in Thailand talking about trade with Thailand, she decided to make some derogatory remarks about President Trump. And so obviously that gets back to Trump, and Trump banned her from the White House. So anytime she came to D.C., she couldn't even go to the White House. She had to meet like in some executive office building or something. And so it was well, and of course the Mexicans was like, well, F Canada. He's like, the Mexicans like, well, gee, should we like be, have solidarity with Canada and stand up against Trump? And they're like, oh, screw them. We're going to make our deal. And they did. So anyway, as far as so I just wish the mainstream media would just say, hey, these are human beings too, and they come across. Oh, funny story today. So I'm in line at the self checkout stand, and I'm buying some of the things I'm buying. One of the things I'm buying are some peaches. Going to put them on the grill some peaches up on the grill, and they were HO in Mexico, I guess, made in Mexico. So when I scanned them through on the scanner, suddenly the machine switched over from English to Spanish, and then everything showed up on the screen in Spanish, and the machine was talking in Spanish. And so I'm like, hey, what's the deal? Habla inglés. And, the machine starts laughing back at me. And I'm like, hey, what are you laughing at? And he's like, gringo. And I'm like, ah. I go, hey, man, speak English. And he's like, F you, puto. And I didn't know what puto means, but I don't think it means anything very nice. So anyway, it comes to like $76, right? So I put a $100 bill in. And so then all of a sudden I'm waiting for the change. Well, the change doesn't come out. And I say, hey, where's my change? And the machine starts laughing at me, and I said, where's my change? And the machine goes, hey, remittances. I'm like, what? Remittances? He goes, yeah, remittances. He goes, va a Mexico. Remittance, va a Mexico. And I couldn't get my change. Then I asked the store director, and he goes, nah, sorry, man. That's just the way it goes, man. And the machine has a mind of its own. So anyway, so be careful. If you're buying fruit or produce from Mexico and you scan it and it starts speaking in Spanish, you better use exact change when you pay for it. If you put too much money in, they won't give you your change back. And it'll go to Mexico as a remittance. But anyway, no, I was joking about most of that, but actually it was funny. It did start speaking Spanish, and it did show the screen to Spanish once I ran the peaches through. So that was kind of funny. But anyway, so back on this story here, authorities are waiting to receive results of the DNA testing prior to announcing the identity of the victim, said Lieutenant Stephen Fitzpatrick of Nassau County. So I mean, that's a pretty tough story, and the mainstream media, of course, they don't want to cover this. So. And let's see here. Where was it? And this story here, is from, I found this in the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about, basically these migrants are coming across, and they know we can't hold them for more than 20 days. And since they know that, they're coming in droves right now. I mean, they're coming in droves. I mean, forget the caravans. I think somebody was on my show, and they're saying, look, it's not about like this little caravan. They're just coming. I mean, big numbers. And, you have to ask yourself this question, where are they getting the money for this? Because, like, remember that one lady who came up from El Salvador with her daughter? That's the girl that Time Magazine put on there, and Trump was looking at her like, Time Magazine, oh, you can't come here. And the little kid's up looking at him crying. Obviously they cut the picture back and forth, spliced it in. Well, then it turned out that this woman wasn't seeking asylum, didn't need asylum, wasn't in fear for her life from the government. Her husband actually had a pretty good upper middle class job. He was a boat a pilot captain, like a they drive the pilot boats to bring the big ships into the harbor. I mean, that's a very sought after job, and it's a very high skilled job because I mean you're in charge of bringing the tankers in and making sure they don't go up against any reefs or rocks, and make sure they don't run into any of the ships. We just had that in the Houston Ship Channel, I think 2 weeks ago, where a tanker ran into a barge or something like that, and it caused all kinds of chemical spills. So, I mean, these are sought after jobs. These are good middle class jobs, and the guy was actually doing pretty good. And I think they had like 4 children together. Well, then lo and behold, one day she just split. She takes only one of the kids, leaves the rest behind, and she had $6,000 in cash on her. Now, a lot of Americans, we just don't have like $6,000 in cash laying around. I mean, you may have money in the bank, but it's going to be used to pay bills, going forward. She has $6,000 liquid just sitting there because it was $3,000 for her and $3,000 for the kid. There was no child discount, and so I mean, these people have money that are coming across. I was looking at a group of migrants that had come over here, and none of them looked like they had missed a meal. I'll tell you that straight up. And all they do is say, "Oh, I need asylum." But I mean, I haven't heard about there isn't any kind of crazy militias running through the streets of Honduras or Guatemala or El Salvador right now. I mean, it's not happening. I mean, it's not like rampant violence going on. I mean, there's gang violence, but we have gang violence here. Hey, man, go live on the south side of Chicago for 10 minutes. I mean, could you, if you live on the south side of Chicago, could you like go to Canada and claim asylum because you live in an area with gang violence? I don't think so. Go live in like I think East Detroit. I mean, or Baltimore, or south side of Philadelphia. I mean, East St. Louis. I mean, just pick a place. I mean, you could say, "Oh, I live in gang violence and go to Canada. I need asylum." Well, no, of course not. I mean, the same kind of conditions they have there we have here. And they say, "Oh, the farming is down." Well, we debunked that. Well, I didn't debunk it. I showed a story from immigrationreform.com where they debunked it. Where actually farming output has increased 300% since like 2002. So it's not because like climate change or gang violence or anything like that. And they debunked the whole gang violence and actually the homicide rate actually has gone down since like I think the high point was like in 2014. I want to say it's gone way down since then. But more people are coming across. So it's actually just it's a bunch of nonsense. The people are going down there, telling them what to say. They get across. They say asylum. They come across as a family. They know we can't hold them more than 20 days, so that to release them. Well, what's been happening? They've been released. They just can't like let them off in the general public. Well, Christ, something happens to this family. If we just let them walk down the street, then Border Patrol will get yelled at for that. So they've been trying to release them to like aid agencies and church groups and whatever. But they're getting overwhelmed. They don't have the funds or the resources available. I think San Diego. I saw a story last week. San Diego had to close down one of their places, shelters, because a big outbreak of the flu took place. I went to law school in San Diego. Let me tell you something. I mean, even the dean told us when we started, hey, look, you will get sick a couple of times this year, and like good sick. So like if you're planning on like holding off on studying till like near, when you get close to midterms or the finals, don't. He goes, make sure you pace yourself because everybody in here is going to get sick. We all laughed at him. Everybody there got sick at some point in time, especially if you're not from San Diego. And it was pretty nasty. I mean, it was like really nasty stuff, coming across the border stuff. So anyway, so here's a story here from Deming, New Mexico. Okay. Let's see, Deming, New Mexico. What happens in a New Mexico town when U.S. Border Patrol drops off migrants? Residents of Deming wonder how long their community can host a wave of people who cross the border illegally. This is by Dan Frosch and Alicia Caldwell. Deming, New Mexico. Chris Bryce was relaxing on his couch on a recent Saturday when he got a text. He's the assistant, I believe, city manager or county manager for Deming, New Mexico. Chris Bryce was relaxing on his couch on a recent Saturday when he got a text that the Border Patrol would be dropping off a large group of migrants in this small desert town the next day. In less than 24 hours, the local government official helped transform an empty tin roof fairgrounds hall on the edge of Deming, population only 14,000. I live in a small town, about 37,000. I can't imagine if we were less than half that size, and suddenly we're taking a couple of thousand migrants. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Population 14,000 to a bare-bones shelter for hundreds of families who cross the border illegally to request asylum. I mean, again, these people don't need asylum. They don't meet the asylum criteria. Like something like 90% of the people who show up for the court hearing and actually have an asylum hearing lose because the judge is like, well, no, you don't qualify. Go home. That's why they don't show up for the hearing. The ones that do show up that are in custody for some reason, they end up getting sent home. When Border Patrol agents arrived with 2 busloads of migrants on Mother's Day, they had startling news. They would be continuing to drop off hundreds more every day for the foreseeable future. Oh, shit. Mr. Bryson, heavy veteran who doubles as assistant Luna County manager and local jail warden, said of his reaction. We were under the impression it was going to be like 100, 150, and it would be a few-day endeavor. And there's Chris Bryce right there, standing in front of looks like the shelter hangar with a bunch of porta potties outside. Like on the phone, help, help. So anyway, nearly 2 weeks and 2,400 migrants in a population of 14,000. 14,000, and you'll read here as it goes on that it's not a really wealthy town. Okay, so nearly 2 weeks and 2,400 migrants later, Mr. Bryce is wearing yet another hat, manager of operations for the shelter, which local officials are preparing to keep open for a year or longer. Deming is the latest in a growing list of southwestern U.S. communities faced with having to house, clothe, and feed Central American migrants being released daily by the Border Patrol. The agency says it no longer has the capacity to handle the record number of families it is arresting, who by law can stay in the U.S. until their asylum claims are resolved. Between January and April, 3 months, about 172,000 crossed, more than in any full year prior. So you have basically 172,000 in 3 months, which is more than any other full year, 12 months. Okay, so do the math on this. So if you take 172 multiply it by 4, I don't know, that's 280 for 688,000. Am I right? Let me see. 497. Yeah, let's see. 497 is 28. Yeah, 668. I don't know. 668,000. I don't know. Something like that. But anyway, you get the point. So 680,000 people this year based on these numbers right now. See, while townspeople have turned out in droves to volunteer bringing food, clothes, and toys, tensions are flaring. Yeah, no kidding. Many wonder how long Deming can afford to be so welcoming. I mean, no shit. You have volunteers that are starting to get burned out, said Sophia Cruz, a school board member and former Border Patrol agent. There's no turning them away. So what then? As a small community, she said Deming can't sustain this. Deming has been caring for between 300 to 400 migrants at a time, peaking at 700 at one point. They typically stay a few days at the fairgrounds or a vacant World War II era airplane hangar a quarter-mile away with no heaters or air conditioners. Then they depart by Greyhound bus from town or by plane from El Paso, 100 miles east, to join family and friends elsewhere in the U.S. while waiting for their first court hearing. You know, I mean, that's just insane. Deming, and then it goes on to say, Deming is among the smallest cities to be used by the Border Patrol as a drop-off point. The largely Hispanic community, I mean, this is an Hispanic community. I mean, you know, there's not like a whole bunch of white crazy people there. This is, you know, it's in New Mexico. It's on the border, okay? The largely Hispanic community set along the interstate, probably Interstate 10, amid the Chihuahuan Desert is a mix of retirees, farmers, ranchers, and federal employees. About 34% of the residents live in poverty. I mean, 34% of residents live in poverty. And these people don't have a lot of money, you know. And then you got retirees. They're probably like on fixed income Social Security. They don't have a lot of cash. And so these people are obviously using up the services, whatever services they have there. See, Border Patrol officials have said that they try to release migrants into the care of aid groups and shelters, but sometimes, as a last resort, are forced to drop them in places the agency consider transit hubs. Deming, an hour and a half from El Paso's busy border crossing, is the only town in this rural border county with a Greyhound bus stop. A spokesman for the federal agency said migrants were being dropped off in Deming because of its proximity to dangerously crowded border patrol stations in the western part of the state. Larger cities like San Diego, nearby Las Cruces, and McAllen, Texas, have had substantial help from charities and aid groups in their scramble to find temporary housing for migrants dropped off by the Border Patrol. But the impact reverberates deeper here, where resources are scant. Yeah, no kidding. 34% of the more than a third of the population live in poverty. The day after the first wave of migrants was dropped in town, Deming declared a state of emergency, becoming the second community sheltering migrants to do so after Yuma, Arizona. This is a first for all of us, said Aaron Serra, city administrator for Deming, as he surveyed rows of cots crowded with sleeping migrants, heaps of blankets, and antsy children playing with donated toys. Outside the fairgrounds building, plywood shower stalls have been rigged to a hose pumping cold water. At the airport hangar, a young man stared at his reflection in the side mirror of a water truck as he shaved. What's the hygiene going on? Anxious for information, parents inside the hangar crowded around anyone who looked like they could help, thrusting forward sticky notes with relative cell phone numbers. Some had no idea where they were. I mean, this is a humanitarian crisis. I mean, it's hard on the people who live there. Well, it's hard on these people. These people have been sold a bill of goods, you know, from Honduras and everywhere. They're being told by these left-wing agencies up here, hey, come on up here. Come here. And they're like, well, you know, I'm doing okay here. Oh, no, you go up there and you get all this free shit. And like, wow, we don't have to work? No, just come up. They can't get down? No, just come with your family. I don't have any family. Well, here's a couple of kids right here. Grab them. And, of course, the country of Honduras is more than happy to help them with any paperwork. You know, here's some phony birth certificates. This is your kid. Because, you know, they don't want us to deal with these people. They don't want us to change their corrupt government. They don't want us to change away from socialism. They don't want to open up a free market economy, which would, with the natural resources these countries have, would just skyrocket. But no, of course, you get a few corrupt people at the top, and they're very happy to keep all the money in their own pockets. And if they get too many people in their own country, which a free market would take care of just fine, and they can't afford to take care of themselves because all the money's in their pocket or some Swiss bank account, then hey, go to the United States. Like, here, we'll help you out with all the paperwork. We'll tell you exactly what to say when you get there. And all these left-leaning groups, the Soros groups, come down there and help them out. And here they go. So anyway, Demis Del Cid, a 30-year-old Honduran father of two, showed his 7-year-old son a map of the United States. We're going to Beaumont, Texas, Mr. Del Cid said in Spanish. We're going to Disneyland. Hey, buddy, you don't have a right to be here. You don't have a legitimate asylum claim. You know you're lying. This guy, again, you want to give some of these immigrants a pass, but I'm sorry. This guy, this 30-year-old Honduran father of two, who showed his 7-year-old son the map of the U.S. saying, we're going to Beaumont, he knows he's lying. He knows he's committing a fraud on the United States. He's committing a fraud on this country. He knows he does not need asylum. He is not being persecuted by his government, and being run out of his country. I guarantee you this guy was not run out of his country, was not being politically persecuted because he held some political views. Okay? Bullshit. Okay? Bullshit. But now he's like, oh, I'm here. Well, somebody said, well, you shouldn't be here. Oh, well, I'm here. See ya. And there you go. We're going to Beaumont. Well, why not? What do we do when we get there? I don't know. You go to public school. Oh, well, really? We pay taxes? No, we're not going to buy a lot of stuff here because we're going to send it mostly back in remittances back home. So we're not going to support, the local economy with sales tax revenue because as we covered the other night, remittances, go back to the home country and it deprives those communities where they live of sales tax revenue, pay for things like public school, public transportation, public hospitals, emergency room visits, etc. Who's going to take care of his 7-year-old son? Who's going to do that? Let's see here. Let's see. Do-do-do. Hold on a second. Just got to check something real quick here. Alrighty. Let's see. Had a call coming in. Just lost it. So let me just see if I can get it back. All right. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Hold on. Alrighty. Hold on. I tell you what, let me call you back and give me a couple minutes. I got your number. I'll call you back a couple minutes. So if you're calling in area code 425, I'll call you back a couple minutes. Okay? Just put in the chat saying, hey, I'm calling in. Call me back. All right. Let me write your number down. All right, yeah, area code 425. I'll call you back in a few minutes. So just put in the chat, say, hey, I'm calling. I'll call me back in a few minutes. Okay? All right. All right, so let's continue on this. Anyway, so this Demis Del Cid guy, again, he knows he's here illegally. He knows he's not supposed to be here. He knows darn well that he doesn't have a proper asylum claim. He knows all that. But yet he's going to sit here anyway and tell his kid, look, we're going to Beaumont. He's telling his kid it's okay to break the law. It's okay to break U.S. immigration law. The first thing these people do when they come across the border, this is the problem you have with them, is that, how are they going to respect our laws if the first thing they do is break our laws? The very first thing this kid is doing, this guy is doing, is breaking his law. He's got his kid with him showing it's okay to break the law. And guess what? We're going to go to Beaumont. So, there lieth the problem. Let's see this push down here. Local emergency workers in the state health department are screening arriving migrants. More than 60 have been taken to a local hospital with flu symptoms. Mr. Bryce said 6 migrant children who crossed the border illegally and were taken into government custody have died since September, including at least 2 because of complications from the flu. Yeah, San Diego's got the same problem. They got this big flu outbreak. I mean, I don't know what kind of illnesses these people are bringing in. Hey, Reese Digital, how you doing there? Good seeing you. But, all these people, these kids are coming, and then, of course, they blame Border Patrol. It's like, oh, well, you didn't take care of them properly. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, these kids are getting better medical care here than they ever got in their own country, that's for sure. So 6 migrant children who crossed the border illegally and were taken into government custody have died since September, including at least 2 because of complications from the flu. And again, these people who live here, these are all Hispanics. Okay, so I don't hear any shit about white folks. I think half the people who work at the Border Patrol are Hispanic. Okay, these people have families, they have kids. A Catholic church in town, St. Anne, is also taking in about 75 migrants a week. Father Manuel Ibarra, another Hispanic, there you go. Father Manuel Ibarra said the church didn't initially intend to become a shelter, but he opened the main hall on Mother's Day when local parishioners knocked on his door with a group of migrants who had been dropped by Border Patrol at McDonald's, which also sells Greyhound tickets. Overtime expenses and the bills for services like portable toilets have yet to be tallied, but Mr. Bryce said he expects them to be significant. At a meeting this week, county officials said New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has indicated to them that expenses would be repaid. Here's a picture. I'm going to show you a picture of a temporary shelter in a hangar that has no heaters or air conditioners. Right there. There you go. Mr. Lujan Grisham, a Democrat, traveled to Washington this week to speak to federal. Miss Lujan Grisham, a Democrat, traveled to Washington this week to speak to federal officials about reimbursement for New Mexico communities. A spokesman said she plans to visit Deming on Friday. Yeah, Ms. Grisham, a Democrat. I can't remember where her stands with immigration, but I don't know. I wonder if she was like a sanctuary city person. I wonder if she was like, into, oh, let them all in. Oh, yeah, this is great. Yeah, well, now you write the check. Let me tell you something. If she's in favor of the sanctuary stuff, she's against building the wall, and I'm pretty sure she's against building the wall. If she's against building the wall and all that stuff, know what I tell her when she got to D.C.? Hey, you pay for it. You pay for it. Okay, you're against building the wall. You're the one lobbying against building the wall. You're lobbying, you want open borders? Well, here's your open border. It's your border. Border of New Mexico and Mexico. So now you can become Old Mexico in about 10 minutes. Okay, and then guess what? They can all stay there too. Okay, I'm going to dump them all in New Mexico for you. You want them so much? You got them. Have a nice day. Anyway, some are unsatisfied. We feel for the families, but at the same time, we have to be able to sustain ourselves, said Karen Reed, who has volunteered at the shelters. A local pecan farmer, Ms. Reed, also worried that the situation would impact the annual fair, a prize community event held each October on the fairgrounds where migrants are now staying. Well, yeah, of course. What are you going to do? Tell them to leave? What are they going to do? You got this fair going on, probably a 2-3 day event like I do up here in my town. You can say, oh, you got to leave? No. And then, let's be honest, these people living on the fairgrounds. Again, I'm sure there's porta potties, but you know how that goes. They're eating food, dropping food all over the place. There's bugs, and there's shit and piss. Who knows what else? They're probably washing their clothes out there in the park, hanging up laundry on the trees. Yeah, well, this poor little town, 14,000 people now have to deal with this shit because people like, the Democrats don't think immigration is a bad thing, or that judge up in the Northern District of California says, oh, this is fine. Congress never intended it, this emergency declaration. Well, it is emergency, Go down and take a look at it. Get out of the Northern District of California. I think it's in Oakland. Come down to the border and see, oh, shit, I can see why he declared a national emergency. I can see why he did. Okay, yeah, Congress, when they said other actions, other activities, other reasons, yeah, this means a crisis, and this does meet that crisis criteria. For Mr. Bryce, endless meetings and calls take up most of his days as local officials try to figure out how they will manage their new reality as a migrant way station. By mid-afternoon Tuesday, the bleary-eyed county official checked in operations at the fairgrounds, his 6-foot-plus frame towering over the Central American families before he disappeared into an emergency command trailer. The alternative is to have 200 people sitting at the food mart or McDonald's with no direction, no restrooms, no food, he said. He goes, we'll make it work. Here's the migrants boarding a Greyhound bus outside of the Members Food Mart in Deming on Tuesday. Well, it doesn't. I mean, that food mart looks like a gas station. In fact, I think it is. It's like a little one of those like. It's not like a food mart, like a food court. It's like a gas station, with like a little convenience store. Crazy, unbelievable. All right, let's next story we're gonna get here too. Oh, here we go. Court halts Trump's emergency declaration wall building plans because, of course, we have no crisis. There is no crisis. There is no emergency. Congress never imagined this. Yeah. Yeah. So when Congress wrote for this Emergency Declaration Act, other activity, and they didn't foresee that you'd want to use the money for a border wall. No, other activity meaning like, yeah, when the shit hits the fan. Okay. Hey, the shit's hit the fan. Okay. Look, just the last 2 stories we covered, and that's just 2. That's one guy on YouTube covering 2 little stories. That's it. By itself, that's a crisis. Okay? And you can imagine how many other stories are out there. I mean, you have to go dig to find these. I mean, but they're out there. These are real stories. I mean, how come CBS News or CNN isn't doing a big expose on this Deming, New Mexico story? Yeah, they don't want to show that. No, because that'd go against their narrative. No, instead, you got to read about it in one of these, e-newspapers. But where's all the camera crews down there showing these people living in terrible, conditions, and in the townspeople, interview some of them. But see, they won't interview them. The same reason why they didn't interview those. The same reason why they didn't show during the Trump press conference up one time about 2 months ago, and they had the two vice presidents for the Border Patrol Union on there. They're both Hispanic, and I got to watch what they said, but CNN quick cut away as soon as they were brought up to the podium because they didn't want to hear from two Hispanic guys saying, "Hey, this situation sucks, and we're totally behind the president building this wall. We got a crisis here." So they quick cut away to their panel, and then after they got done talking, then Trump got back on. Then they went back to Trump, and what they said, you can tell it was kind of really ad-libbed real fast because they really didn't have anything to say when they went back to the panel. Yeah, so what do you think? Yeah, we just got to kill the time because we want to show these two Hispanic guys. Well, I guarantee you, same thing here. Most of the town, probably 90% of the town is probably Hispanic. So the people who live there are going to say, "Yeah, I'm pissed off. This is crazy. We got to stop this." Well, they don't want to hear that story. God forbid. But yeah, an Obama appointed judge. That's correct. Obama name is, let's see, Hayward Gilliam Jr. Hayward S. Gilliam Jr. Appointed in 2014. Had previously clerked with a Jimmy Carter appointed judge as well. Anyway, so court halts Trump's emergency declaration wall building plans. And again, he had a conclusion in his mind. I've read plenty of decisions and orders in the past, plenty of times, my own cases, other people's cases, etc. And you can tell when a judge has his mind made up before you even write anything, before you say anything, and it comes up with a decision. And then you say how they try to fit the facts. Basically your decision is supposed to say you take the facts and you see how it applies to the law, and then you come up with a decision. When you have a judge who's already got his mind made up, what he does is he has a conclusion, then he goes and finds facts and twists them a little bit, finds law, twists it a little bit, gives this interpretation versus this one, and says, "Oh, look, you lose." So basically, that's what he said: you lose. He threw the U.S. the Attorney General's office a bone on this one cause of action, but it was a throwaway anyway, so it wasn't like he did any favors for him. I mean, if he had ruled in favor on this one cause of action, it was, it would have been too obvious. But it was like a total of 4 causes of action they filed for injunctive relief, 4 reasons why they filed for injunctive relief. He found in complete agreement on 3 of 4 of them and said, "Oh, yeah, it should be granted." It was the Sierra Club brought it, and also a number of states brought it as well. It was and of course, and I'll get to this story in a few minutes after this. Basically it's forum shopping. One of the biggest tenets of judicial rulings is that you want to prevent litigants from forum shopping. Like if you're in a certain county or like a large county, like say San Bernardino County in California, Orange County, California, and you want to file an action, you have to pick it, not just one, you have to be in the right county to begin with. Okay, you can't just, like if you have real property situated in Riverside County, you can't go up to L.A., you can't go to L.A. County and file the lawsuit. No, because the site isn't there. But even in larger counties where you have several different courthouses, like San Bernardino County, for instance, you have a courthouse in Victorville, you have a courthouse in Barstow, you have a courthouse in Rancho Cucamonga, San Bernardino downtown. When you file an action, there's a little form you got to fill out because they want to make sure you're not forum shopping, that you're not looking for judges who are going to rule kind of in your favor, or judges you might know, or judges who rule a certain way for plaintiffs versus ruling for defendants, that kind of thing. So you got to fill out this form, and it lists out why you're filing, not just in the county, but why you're filing in this specific courthouse inside that county, why you're in this city. And you better be in the right place. If you're not, they review those and they'll kick it, and they keep your money, and they charge you for moving it to the proper place. In fact, you have to move it and everything else. So, but here, this was going on the U.S. judiciary, and Barr talks about this later. Basically, the American Law Institute said, "Oh, a U.S. district judge can issue an injunction nationwide." Well, that kind of goes against the tenets of history. Generally, if you have an action, like say you have an action in Deming, New Mexico, you would probably a U.S. district court in Las Cruces, I would imagine. You would file the action in Las Cruces, and his authority would be limited to that area. And then if you wanted, to file, if it affected another area or another place, you'd file in that jurisdiction. You wouldn't, And you wouldn't file like in New York City and say, okay, this affects the whole border wall crisis. It doesn't. So they like even filing in the Northern District of California. Okay, why are you filing in the Northern District of California? Why not? Well, how come you're not filing in the Southern District of California? I mean, how come you're not at least in San Diego? Why are you filing in Oakland? The border wall is pretty far away from Oakland. I mean, at least in San Diego, you can make a decent pitch saying, well, it's San Diego. Probably because you don't want to judge, probably because they don't want to judge in San Diego here in the case. Why? Because literally they live there. These guys live in San Diego. They live right across from the border. They can see the influx of the immigration. They can see the problem. They can see that it is a crisis. In fact, they live it. They breathe it. They go out their house. Maybe they drive through National City or Southeast San Diego or Chula Vista. They can see the crisis. They see it's real. And so, they'll file it up in Oakland. They don't see what's going on down there. They can't see anything. So that's why. But anyway, so court halts Trump's emergency declaration wall building plans. That's going to cover that. By Stephen Dining of the Washington Times. A federal judge ruled Friday that President Trump overstepped his powers when he used an emergency declaration to go around Congress and try to build his border wall in order to halt to at least some of the construction. Hey, that 425 area code, are you in the chat? Let me see if you're in the chat here. Okay, anybody in the chat? Area code 425 called in. Anybody in the chat? Reese, that you? 425 Jervis. Anyway, if you're in the chat, just put in the chat. Yeah, I'm 425. Call me back, and I'll call you back as soon as I get through like this story or something. But if you want to, anybody else wants to call in, though, feel free. 775-273-8970. 775-273-8970. Anyway, so here we go back to the story. A federal judge ruled Friday night that President Trump overstepped his powers when he used the emergency declaration to go around Congress and to try to build his border wall in order to halt to at least some of the construction. Excuse me a second, let me grab some water. I live in the desert. It gets very dry here. All right, so Judge Haywood Gilliam, an Obama appointee to the Northern District of California, said the Constitution gives Congress the power to control spending. Mr. Trump's efforts to do an end run around Capitol Hill after lawmakers explicitly denied him more money for the wall was too much. Congress has repeatedly rejected legislation that would have funded substantially broader border barrier construction, the judge wrote. So basically he's saying, look, Congress denied your request, so you can't go around them for declare the emergency declaration. But if you notice in the law, Congress would say, and you can't build any more wall, and you can't find any more money. They didn't, so they maybe he asked for money, he got that much money, and that's all he got. That doesn't mean they actually said you can't do something, because they could have written that into the bill. They could have said in the bill, okay, and you can't build any more wall. Here's this much money, and you can only use it for this, and you can't do anything else. That could have been in the bill of Congress, because the problem is that he in his holding he says, well, Congress doesn't have to do that. Well, they have to do that when they have another statute that basically the emergency declaration statute that provides and allows the president to move money around. So he's wrong on that. I mean, he's dead wrong. Okay, now if Congress didn't, if there wasn't this emergency declaration statute and the president was just trying to move money around, okay, he has a good point. But this judge totally totally ignores the emergency declaration statute and coming to his conclusion saying, well, Congress said, no, you can't build anymore. That's one thing. And they would have to do that with that emergency declaration statute in place. If the emergency declaration statute is in place, I agree with him. Then they don't have to say, no, you can't. Okay? Then it's different. But with the emergency declaration in place, which allows him, if he declares a national emergency, follows all the proper procedures, to then move money around, he can. And if they wanted to explicitly reject that, then they could have said, oh, and by the way, this amends the statute for this purpose, the emergency declaration statute also amends it for this purpose, saying he can't use it for this. I'm not sure how constitutional that would have been, but nonetheless. But still, they didn't do any of that. So, of course, he says, okay, I'm going to use the emergency declaration because it's an emergency. And the judge has been conceded there is no criteria for what is considered an emergency or not, meaning that Congress gave him broad powers. So on one hand, he's admitting that Congress gave these broad powers with vague powers, saying there's not even a criteria he has to meet for it to be an emergency declaration. But then when the one part of the statute doesn't like, he says, well, that wasn't specific enough, and they never anticipated for border barriers. Well, the whole point again of the statute was it was designed so that it would not just take care of events that are anticipated that we've already seen, But sometimes in life, things, some events happen you haven't seen before. It's like, but a Mr. Ivory Tower judge here, I guess, doesn't understand that. Sometimes shit happens and you go, wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. Who figured? Wow, I bet this Gilliam guy, I bet he had no idea Trump was going to become president. I'm sure he's probably like, wow, who would have figured that? But but I guess it was unforeseen. Sort of like we had to save the whales or something. Suddenly the whales had a virus outbreak and it was unforeseen. And be like, well, that's different. But it was trying to protect our country and protect our borders. Then well, okay, well then it has to be very specific. Yeah. Okay. Again, he has a conclusion, and he's trying to fit the facts and the law into that conclusion, and that's exactly what he did. And then of course he said like case management conference, and this will drag this out. So now it's going to somebody, and then of course when they forum shop, they don't just forum shop for a U.S. District Court judge that's going to give them a favorable ruling. I mean, you can't pick the judge, but you can pick the courthouse, okay, and then hopefully you get the right judge. And you can generally pick the courthouse and say, what are the odds of getting a good judge on this case versus another? But anyway, so then you also pick a U.S. District Court which sits in a favorable appeal circuit court of appeals. So on this end, it would be the Ninth Circuit. So if you notice, they didn't file this like in Texas, which would have made sense. They didn't file this like I think even New Mexico is not in the Ninth Circuit. I think New Mexico jumps over the second. I'm not mistaken. I know Arizona's in the ninth. Nevada, Arizona, California is in the ninth. But of course, so you want to find a friendly circuit court of appeals, so then it delays it even more. So he issues the injunction. It goes up on appeal. The appeals court affirms the injunction. The injunction stays in place. They can't build. Okay, it's there, done. So I mean, they may find it. The Trump administration may find some way around it. I don't know. Get creative somehow. But I mean, they can't disobey the ruling of the court. They just can't. Sorry. It's I like the Constitution as much as the next guy. I think just the way these injunctions are working, we'll get to that in a few minutes. It's not proper. It's not appropriate. But nonetheless, so then it gets delayed in the appeals court. Then finally it might get to the Supreme Court, and then hopefully you'll get a fair ruling there. So this forum shopping just got to stop. But anyway, so you see, he issued an injunction blocking construction plan near El Paso, Texas, and Yuma, Arizona. The ruling is a substantial blow to Mr. Trump. No, it's a substantial blow to the country. I mean, I don't know who's writing this, but, come on, Steve. I mean, it's a substantial blow to the country who orchestrated a government shutdown to try to get his border wall built and signed a bill to reopen government without getting the wall money he sought. I'm going to cover this story here, right here. There's Amanda. Let me back this up. Okay, this is Amanda Eller, missing hiker, found alive. She was in a 2,000 acre park, something like that. I don't know, but whatever. So anyway, he had been counting on his emergency powers, which he said allowed him to tap the Pentagon's money to build border barriers. Indeed, one section of law explicitly authorized the Defense Department to build barriers. Yeah, that was Section 284, subsection 7. Actually, he said build fences, build barriers for drug hoarders. I mean, the statute was very specific on that. Let's see. Anyway, let's get to the next story here. Oh, yeah. So this is what we're talking about as far as forum shopping, and this is what Bill Barr's talking about. And he must have seen this ruling coming down the pipe because, basically the oral argument was last week. And so he probably, talked to his guys and said, oh, yeah, this judge, he just, by the oral argument, by the tenor of the question the judge was asking, probably jumping on their ass a lot, during the oral argument. They came back and said, hey, man, he's going to rule against us on this. So he did this interview, gave this story out here. Hold on. Yeah, I agree, Sean. Yeah, if they keep this up, it'll just be, yeah, I mean, we got nothing to do with these people. I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do with them. No, of course, this judge up in Northern District of California, he has no answer, obviously. Well, you figure it out. Democrats in Capitol Hill have no answer for it. But, I mean, if they change the law saying, okay, you want to seek asylum, do so, you have to be the first country you come to, or you have to go to the consulate. Okay, that would end this whole charade right now. Because now, here's a test. If they all run to Mexico seeking asylum, then, they really do need it. But I guarantee you they won't. The asylum claims will stop. They won't cross into Mexico seeking asylum. Okay, and I saw, it looks like Tucker showed something from Monday where these guys are picking up these big sticks and stuff, and they're planning to get into a fight with the Mexican police. They want to get through. Anyway, they look like primarily men, by the way, just to let you know. So, anyway, unprecedented power. William Barr blasts federal judges over nationwide injunctions. Attorney General William Barr, this is a story from Tuesday, from May 21st. Attorney General William Barr on Tuesday railed against federal courts issuing nationwide injunctions blocking President Trump from implementing his policies, saying they wield unprecedented power. In a speech before the American Law Institute, Barr said such injunctions block politicians of all stripes from enacting the voters' will. One judge can, in effect, cancel the policy with a stroke of the pen, he said. No official in the United States government can exercise that kind of nationwide power, with the sole exception of the president. And the Constitution subjects him to nationwide election, among other constitutional checks as a prerequisite to wielding that power. Mr. Barr pointed his finger squarely at the American Law Institute for contributing to the problem. He blamed a 2010 commentary published saying individual cases are the same as aggregate litigation because in both cases the relief would apply to one or several individuals. That's wrong, Barr said, because it ignores prior legal precedent. Mr. Barr's remarks come roughly 1 week after Vice President Mike Pence announced the Trump administration will seek to end the authority of district judges to order nationwide injunctions. Since Mr. Trump took office, federal courts have issued 37 nationwide injunctions against his policies. Mr. Barr said during President Barack Obama's first 2 years, where we are right now, so 37 in President Trump's first 2 years, during President Obama's first 2 years, courts issued 2 injunctions. 2. And only 27 total were issued during the 20th century, according to the Justice Department data. 27 during the 20th century. The Trump administration has battled multiple nationwide injunctions as states staunchly opposed to his policy wield them as a tool. Mr. Barr ticked off some of those fights in his speech, including the travel ban on several Muslim-majority countries, the transgender military service ban, and efforts to wind down DACA. Mr. Barr said the Deferred Action for Child Arrivals, or DACA, fight is emblematic of the problems caused by nationwide injunctions. Unless the court acts quickly and decisively, we are unlikely to see a decision before mid-2020 at the earliest. That is, right before the next presidential election, he said. It's hard to imagine a clear example of the stakes of nationwide injunctions. Even more frustrating, Barr said, was the injunctions were brought because administration opponents shopped for the most favorable forms of bringing their case. Rather than an orderly pattern of litigation in which the government loses some cases and wins others, with issues percolating their way through the appellate courts, we have an interdistrict battle fought with all or nothing injunctions, he said. Exactly. In other words, they grant these preliminary injunctions, and they say, okay, later. And then we'll see you a year from now when we get to the trial. Or take it up on appeal, and then we'll see you a year from now or 2 years from now when it gets to the Supreme Court. And Barr's right. It's like, the idea that you can just say, one judge, one unelected, appointed judge, one judge, with a lifetime appointment, by the way, just let you know, U.S. District Court judge's lifetime appointment. There's only been 3 impeachments of U.S. District Court judges since 1789. 3. That's it. Well, actually, I want to say 91? Yeah, I think it was. So, and just no accountability, no checks, no balance, no nothing. Well, the appellate court's a check and balance. Really? Okay. So for 2 years, this policy stands. So all the wall construction in those areas where these people are coming across, causing irreparable harm to the United States. I mean, you're not going to really repair this mess unless you pay a shitload of money. Then the shitload of money argument comes in and say, yeah, okay, it's repairable if somebody pays a shitload of money. Maybe. I mean, it's just insane. But anyway. Call-in number is 775-273-8970. 775-273-8970. But anyway, gonna shoot you guys the zombie, and I'll be right back. Hey, I'm back. I know you missed me. I'm sure. I hope you enjoyed the zombie. I always like the zombie. But anyway, now I wanted to call that guy back, and it turns out it's just a kind of computer modem, kind of. So probably a troll phone number. So anyway, let's get to our next story here. There we go. All right, let's take a look what we got here. Blah 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 blah. Oh, here we go. Here's your collusion. Leaking FBI agents got payouts from the media. Gee, go figure. Wonderful. Just wonderful. FBI agents getting paid from the media to leak sensitive, classified information. The Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Yeah, such wonderful people they are. All right, again, this is from the Washington Times. Let's take a look at it. It's from Larry O'Connor. This is actually from June 15th of 2018. And this story is kind of relevant now because of what's going on. So, finally, after 2 years of promises, we found some real and tangible evidence of collusion in Washington, D.C. during the 2016 presidential election. But it's not exactly the Moscow-based Borscht Bowl of collusion we've been promised, unless the Kremlin was directing the American media to collude with the American Department of Justice. That's right, it was the media colluding with agents and executives at every level of the FBI to try to affect the results of the 2016 presidential election. Hey, Robert Mueller, where's your grand jury now? That's a good question the writer posits to him. The Office of Inspector General's report on the FBI and Justice Department handling and mishandling of the investigation of Hillary Clinton's use of an unauthorized, non-secure email server to conduct secret government business as Secretary of State revealed real and damning information on the media and their incestuous relationship with the deepest members of the deep state. While the FBI was leaking worse than the Stanley Cup after a rough all-nighter with Alex, whatever, reporters were funneling gifts, payoffs, if you will, back to the leakers in the form of tickets to sporting events, golf outings, dinners, drinks, invites to private exclusive parties, and more. In other words, the complaints about the biased media working with biased and powerful federal bureaucrats who meet at private and elite cocktail parties to plot their own agenda and the downfall of the political enemies was not some paranoid fever dream of the conservative media. It was true and apparently business as usual in Obama's Washington around 2016. We've identified instances where FBI employees improperly received benefits from reporters, including tickets to sporting events, golfing, outings, drinks, and meals, and admittance to non-public social events, reads Michael Harris's report. But the IGs did nothing to directly recommend discipline or criminal referrals for these infractions because they did not fall under the scope of his investigation. It's just what he turned up back then. This is the old report he wrote back in, 18. Horowitz has a separate investigation on the culture of leaks of the FBI and will separately report on those investigations as they are concluded, the report stated. The Daily Caller's Kevin Daly points out that gifts from reporters to leaking FBI agents could be a violation of federal law. The rules defining prohibited source as a person who is seeking official action by, is doing business or seeking to do business with, or is regulated by the employee's agency, or has interests that may be substantially affected by performance or non-performance of the employee's official duties. Those definitions derive from the U.S. Code that states violations will be sanctioned in accordance with any applicable laws, executive orders, and rules or regulations. It's at this point when a normal American, not one steeped in the deep and vast knowledge of the D.C. swamp and the quote-unquote way things work in the federal government, throws a remote across the room and screams, "How is this not a violation of federal law?" And they have every reason to be frustrated and disgusted. And any other person in reality, the picture painted by I.G. Horowitz, Inspector General Horowitz, sure looks like corrupt, illegal behavior at the most insidious and powerful levels of our government. And then he do like a mock reporter here, and he goes on, "Reporter, can you leak some information to me to help Hillary out and hurt Trump?" FBI agent, "Nah, I can't do it, bro. I'm not authorized. It would be against the law." Reporter, "Come on, man. We got some more info out there. Trump's killing Hillary on this email stuff, and she sucks at explaining this away. I mean, we're trying our best to downplay this thing, but we need something out there to help her along before it's too late." FBI agent, "Yeah, I hear you, man, but I can't jeopardize my job by leaking to you, and, I have to investigate what could be a crime here. I mean, I swore an oath to uphold the law, and justice can't be served if little drips and drabs of secret information is leaking out to the press." Reporter, "I respect your integrity, I really do. How about if I give you some Redskins tickets and get you a couple of rounds of golf at Congressional golf course?" FBI agent, "Dude, what do you want to know? Me email inbox, SU email inbox." And this behavior may be a violation of law. So basically, what they were doing is they were actually not only helping out the Clinton campaign during the election and hurting the Trump campaign with their leaking, they were actually getting paid to do it. Golf passes at fancy country clubs, football, sporting events, Redskins tickets, probably club seats, that kind of shit. And they were getting and it went on and on and on. And let's see, let's check one more story about the immigration issue. And this freshman House Republican, he blocked the disaster relief bill, saying the rush to passage shortchanges the border. Now, this is a funny story, but it's actually like Nancy Pelosi being like really stupid again. I mean, I'm not sure what she was thinking about. She wanted to give these guys their 10 days break. I mean, it shows you the level of incompetence in D.C. and she's ahead of it as far as the Congress goes. The big spring break vacation. Everybody wants to go on vacation. Everybody wants to get out of town. Well, this bill wasn't done. Well, I mean, they voted on it. They sent it to the Senate. Went to conference committee. Then I guess it was had to go back to the House. Well, she thought everybody was in favor of it because Trump said, "Yeah, I'll sign it. Just send it over." So instead of just waiting a freaking day, keeping the House in session for one more lousy day, I mean, you could work another day. It's not the end of the world. To make sure that there was going to be a vote and it was going to pass. She goes, "Oh, we'll do it by you'll see that I can't remember the phrase, but we'll do it like this way where we don't take a vote, nobody has to be there. But if one person objects, it just takes one person to say, no, I want a roll call vote, and the Congress isn't in session, it kills the bill. And then instead of her saying, okay, guys, let's all get back here right now, because supposedly she cares so much about the people in the country in Puerto Rico. We got to get the money to them. If she cares so much about it, she could have called everybody and said, "Get your ass back here. Get back on the plane. Get your ass back here. Forget about the spring break vacation you're taking with your kids or whatever else you're going to plan. We got to vote on this bill." But no, she said, "Oh, whoa, no, it's his fault." No, it's your fault because you're incompetent. You got a bill sitting on the table. It takes one congressman, just one, can stand up and say no, and that's it. Versus if it's a regular vote, one congressman doesn't mean shit. But instead of her calling everybody back or just keeping everybody in session, the damn thing got done. No, everybody's got to leave. We all got to go on vacation. Forget the people's business. No, we got to leave. But anyway, well, good for her. She screwed herself. So there you go. So let's get to this. Freshman House Republican blocks disaster relief bill, says rush to passage shortchanges border. All right, let's see here. By, again, Stephen Dinan in the Washington Times. This is from yesterday. A Republican on Friday blocked the disaster spending bill from speedy passage through the House. In other words, they left Thursday, I guess. They couldn't have stayed through Friday? I mean, really? They had to leave Thursday. They couldn't. She goes, okay, better stay till Friday. Make sure this bill gets voted on and passed, because just to make sure, because it could just be one guy gets pissed off and doesn't vote that way. But anyway, blocked the bill from speedy passage through the House, meaning it will be June before the chamber is able to return in full to approve the measure. Well, no, it makes it sound like it'll be June before they can return. Well, they can return right now if she ordered them back, okay? But then they'd all be mad at her, like, oh, you made me miss my vacation. And then she'd be like, well, yeah, but what about the Puerto Ricans? And they'd be like, oh, screw the Puerto Ricans. We want to be on vacation. Democrats lashed out, saying the move was spiteful and would delay money getting to the needy people. Hey, buddy, stay in town one more day, okay? Make sure it gets done. Don't be pissed off at this guy. Stay in fucking town for an extra day. But Representative Chip Roy, a first-term Texas Republican whose objection derailed passage, said it was wrong to try to pass a $19.1 billion bill after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has sent lawmakers home for a 10-day Memorial Day vacation. Yeah. Mr. Roy also said the bill lacked the $4.5 billion Trump asked for to take care of the border crisis. And he goes, we've had months to figure this out. Exactly. And where's the money for the border crisis? Where's that? McConnell said no, told Trump no on that. Well, good for this guy. He's like, okay, well, I guess the Puerto Ricans can wait. I guess it wasn't that important to you. You had to go on vacation. Again, you couldn't even, okay, instead of a 10-day Memorial Day vacation, maybe it could have been 9 days. Just saying. Oh, well, we can't fly out on Friday. Oh, my God. The airport's going to be crowded. These are our public servants, mind you. I want you to remember that. These are our public servants. If I decide to give somebody the day off early or let them go early on like the Friday before Memorial Day, guess what? That's on me because I'm paying for it directly. But if you're a public servant, no, you have to stick around. Every once in a while the courthouse will do that. They'll say, oh, We got to take. They got the county commissioners to give them Christmas Eve off. It wasn't even a state holiday or a federal holiday, but they got them to give it off with pay. It's like, if I want to give my staff that day off, that's on me. I pay for that. And every once in a while, you'll see that they'll cut them off early a couple hours. It's like, oh, really nice to be generous with other people's money. That's always nice. Same thing here. Get back to work. Okay, stay through Friday. Ooh, you may be busy at the airport. Yeah, no shit. That's how the rest of us have to deal with it. Mr. Roy also said the bill lacked the. Okay, here we go. We've had months to figure this out. Okay, let's see where he goes. The bill cleared the Senate on Thursday after Ms. Pelosi had released the chamber for its vacation. I mean, this bill's sitting out there. Why would you release him? And again, if it takes one guy, maybe one guy woke up and stepped on a nail or something, and he's just going to be pissed. Maybe it's not for any kind of moral reason or ethical reason or policy reason. It's just some guy that just woke up and I'm just going to say no. Republican leaders had urged her to keep the House. Republican leaders had urged her to keep the House in town to work on the bill. Yeah. They're saying, hey, probably the leadership was telling her, hey, look, because they have to work with her. Hey, look, we can't guarantee everybody's going to go along with this. You might want to keep them in town. And I don't know, was she in a rush to go somewhere too, I guess? I don't know. Does she have plans? I mean, I'd like to know where she is right now. Is she, like, in China? I don't know. Did she have to, like, catch a cruise ship or something? That's funny. The leadership was actually, if you think about it, the leadership could have like been trying to derail her and not said anything to her. Like, oh yeah, you can go. Yeah, just no problem. We got this. But instead, they were telling, hey, look, you better keep everybody in town here because we can't guarantee everybody's going to go along with this. And she's like, waved her hand. I gotta go. Where's my makeup bag? Where's my Botox? Give me my Botox. Anyway, instead, Democrats sought to pass the bill by unanimous consent during a pro forma. This is so stupid. During a pro forma session, meaning every one of the House's more than 400 members had to agree. And then the writer here writes, Stephen Dinan writes, unsurprisingly, some did not. I mean, big surprise. I mean, big surprise. One guy said no. I mean, out of 435 members, you're going to count on everybody to go along with your deal? Again, the leadership was telling her, hey, you better stay in town. You better have a vote on this. No, I got to catch a plane. All right. Mr. Roy was the one to make an objection. Well, I'm sure there are others that were going to, but since he made it and that was all he needed, he's the one who stuck his neck out. Fine. They left him out there by himself. But that's okay. I'm sure he was fine with that. Ms. Pelosi called it a last-minute sabotage. No, I call it last-minute incompetence. You should have kept the damn House in session. Then you wouldn't have to worry about this one guy. But no, you had to catch that plane. You had to get home, watch Gilligan's Island, I guess. I don't know. Then she writes, countless American families hit by devastating natural disasters across the country will now be denied the relief they urgently need. Well, then you should have stayed in town one extra day. One lousy day. So obviously you don't care about countless American families. Your plans to get on that plane to go wherever you're going and probably go to the plastic surgeon or her dementia doctor to get some more medication. I don't know. I mean, she looks like she's got dementia. Will now be denied the relief they urgently need. President Trump had said he supports the bill and said he's been assured he'll get the border money soon. Well, I don't know. That optimism may be put to the test. The Federal Health Department says it will run out of money to hold illegal immigrant children and will soon have to siphon money from refugees or victims of human trafficking. That's pretty nasty. Meanwhile, Homeland Security says it's desperate for a new infusion of cash to provide better conditions for the illegal immigrant families and children caught at the border. I mean, they got no more money. I mean, they're blown through it. I mean, again, they went through 170,000 migrant families claiming asylum in the first 3 months from January to April of this year was higher than any other single full 12-month year combined. I mean, they're out of money. There's your unforeseen circumstance. There's your other what's that? Wait, I got to get the word again. There's your other activity, Judge Gilliam. There it is right there. Okay? And yeah, maybe Congress never foresaw that back in 76 or even 94 when the amendments were made. But it's happening now, and that's why the Congress gave the president that kind of power, not because Congress wouldn't be able to convene, but because Congress would be inept to be able to get something done. So they said, hey, look, we know us. When they wrote, this is basically what they said when they wrote the bill. We know us. We know we can disagree on stuff. We know we're stupid. And we know we get led around by the masses or by this special interest group. And sometimes when the shit hits the fan, somebody's got to take action. And it's too politically. It's going to be. It might be too politically hot for us in the future to do that. So we're going to give you the power. Now, as long as you don't act like a lunatic, because if you do, we got 2/3 will vote it away, that power away. But as long as it's within, I can vote. I can vote to have you cut off, even though I really want you to keep doing it. But I can vote to stop you when I know it's not going to pass. So get the 2/3 vote. That's what Congress was doing. Congress was realizing their own weaknesses, namely that they're subject to being elected every 2 years for the House, and they have to go along with special interest groups to raise money. They knew that back in '76. They said sometimes somebody's just got to take action, and don't worry if it's too crazy. We can always do a 2/3 majority of both houses. And I can't understand why he didn't see that. It's obviously somebody who's never been out there. My guess. I don't know. Anyway, so the border money was just one of the hiccups in the disaster bill. President Trump had objected to extra cash for Puerto Rico, saying the island territory had already gotten a record amount from taxpayers. The bill ended up including $600 million for food assistance for Puerto Rico and cash for recovery and rebuilding for states hit by tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, and other catastrophes over the last 2 years. Hey, Puerto Rico, you can't have it both ways. If you want to be a state and have to follow, state, U.S. regulations when it comes to building and electrical grid and all that, then fine. You get into a disaster. Hey, man, we're right there. Have some money. But, the reason why the place was such a disaster because they didn't have to follow any kind of federal codes. I mean, some of these electrical lines were going from, like, tied into one house to another and run down, and a conduit pipe, to another house. And it was just a disaster. But, I mean, all these other countries that got affected, these island countries that got affected, were up and running for business by December. I mean, they were getting tourists for Christmas. And Puerto Rico is still a disaster. The legislation will now likely be passed when the House returns from its vacation in 2 weeks. I mean, that's just embarrassing to write that. I can't believe. And Pelosi standing up there, he sabotaged me. No, you sabotaged yourself. The Republicans told you, keep him in town. Keep him in town. Okay, one extra day. It wasn't the end of the world. No, we got to let him go. There they went. All right, let's see here. Let's see here. Free. Yep. All right. So live calling number 775-273-8970. Let's get to our next topic here. Oh. Yeah, I like this story. This is a good one. Trump rips Pelosi over trade deal to help farmers. She's got to get up to snuff. And I read this article. Everything he says in here, in my opinion, is true. In Carl's opinion is true. All right, so let's see here. By Dave Boyer of the Washington Times. This was written on Thursday, actually. President Trump goaded House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Thursday to, quote-unquote, get up to snuff on a major trade deal with Canada and Mexico to help U.S. farmers, while his administration moved to provide a $16 billion bailout to farmers hurt by Chinese tariffs. Trump goes on to say, Pelosi does not understand the bill, the president said of legislation to approve the trade agreement. She's got to get up to snuff, learn the bill. She's a mess. I don't think Nancy Pelosi understands the deal. It's too complicated for her. He lodged a presidential barb a day after his confrontation with the speaker at the White House that ended with his vow not to work with House Democrats until they complete multiple investigations of him. The president still wants Congress to approve the USMCA, the acronym for the trade agreement with Canada and Mexico, that he negotiated to replace the 1990s era North American Free Trade Agreement. And the Democrats want to put their little touches on this thing. It's like, hey, buddy, Democrats, you don't seem to get it. You know how long this took to negotiate with Mexico and Canada? And now if you come in and say, oh, no, we want this, that, and the other, guess what? It has to happen. It has to go back to Mexico and it has to go back to Canada. They have to agree. Now, Canada, first of all, they really got the short end of this deal to begin with. There's no way Trudeau politically can do anything else to make it any better for the United States. I mean, he got ripped off. He got taken to town. Good for him. And good for the Canadians anyway. They should get taken to town. A bunch of arrogant people anyway. So anyway, but Mexico, I mean, look, they did this deal. They're done. They can't go back. What are they gonna do? They go, oh well, no. It's funny, the Democrats, oh, we love immigrants and stuff. Well, then sign this stupid deal for Mexico. Well, first of all, this deal goes through. It's going to help everybody. It'll slow down. It'll slow down the immigrants coming from Mexico. Because they'll be like, well, I'll just stay here. Because part of the deal is like, you have to pay if like a U.S. auto manufacturer like Ford is down in Mexico, and now any cars coming across they have to pay tariffs on unless they pay their people $15 an hour, $15 per hour, and some other stuff a little more complicated. That hey, I'm not an economics guy, but hey, but still they have to pay them like say $15 an hour. I'm pretty sure that number is real. So that's a win-win because one, if they don't pay the $15 an hour, they pay the tariffs, which means we get money in the U.S. Treasury Department. And if they do pay these people $15 an hour, well, then it's more competitive for our workers. Ford have to charge not the same price they charge for cars made in America, but still, you know what I mean, pretty close. And it's a win for the damn Mexican people. These people are getting $15 an hour. I mean, shit. That's awesome. And now, but the Democrats wanted like, oh, we want this and that, labor bargaining and all whatever. It's like, hey, $15 an hour, that's a nice chunk of change with the cost of living being as low as it is in Mexico. You could definitely support a family on that without a doubt. Cost of living in Mexico in many places is far less than it is up here. So $15 an hour up here, you say, well, gee, that's kind of tough to support a family. You'd be right, but the cost of living is so much lower down there. You $15 an hour, you're working. Maybe your wife is working. Maybe your wife isn't. Maybe she's staying at home. Kids are in school. I mean, that's good money. Not to mention they probably don't stay at 15. I mean, Ford Motor Company probably works down there kind of similar to the way they work up here. If somebody does really good, get promoted, work into management. I don't know. So, but Democrats want to tinker with it because they don't want to hand Trump the win, and two, if they do hand it to him, they want to say they had something to do with it, which they had nothing to do with it. I mean, this is not one of those things. Well, it was Obama's trade deal. No, it wasn't. Obama never even started anything like this. It wasn't anything. It was just this was all Trump and his guy and Leichheiser and those guys, and Kushner and everybody else. So that's how this got done. And that other guy from CNBC, whose name I keep forgetting. So, but anyway, so he goes on to say, referring to himself tongue-in-cheek again as a quote-unquote extremely stable genius, Mr. Trump said he could work with Democrats on trade and other issues so quick your head will spin if he were free from partisan investigations. And he's right, because why does he have to keep responding to this shit? I mean, hell, Mueller doesn't even want to appear in person. Okay? He said he'll appear, he'll give a brief opening. I covered this night before last, I'm sorry. Night before last. And Nadler was all upset. In fact, Nadler was so upset it looked like he passed out and like had a heart attack or something yesterday. He was so upset about it because he thought he was going to get Mueller there, and and he thought Mueller was on his side 1,000%. And Mueller's probably his position and Nadler's position are pretty similar. So that Mueller's like, hey, f this, I did my job. You want a political game, then you do it. So Mueller's like, no, I'm not going to appear on TV answering questions. I'll give a brief statement on TV, and the rest will be in closed session. Worst best case scenario for the Democrats will be a transcript. Maybe, only maybe a transcript. Let's see. So one thing they can do is approve the USMCA so we have our farmers taken care of, Mr. Trump said. Not only farmers, it's every industry. Ms. Pelosi responded on Twitter, when the extremely stable genius starts acting more presidential, I'll be happy to work with him on infrastructure, trade, and other issues. Well, she's an idiot, okay? So, I mean, the USMCA should just get to the Senate, get to the House, just get passed, go through, and get done. The sparring over the trade deal for North America erupted as Mr. Trump announced his second bailout in 2 years for farmers and ranchers who have lost business from his tariff war with China. He was joined by about 20 farming industry heads representing corn, soybean, hog farmers, and others. Agriculture Department said direct aid payments totaling up to $16 billion will begin in late July or early August after a $12 billion farm bailout last year. So, I mean, that's actually pretty good. Let's see. Here we go. 2020 Democrats. Let's see. Boom. All right. So here we go. Fox News divides 2020 Democrats. So 2020 Democrats are divided over Fox News. Namely, should they appear or not appear? Personally, I think you're stupid because there are a lot of independents who watch Fox News. There are a lot of right of center Republicans who might vote for a Democrat if you give them a good enough reason to. and if you don't go and appear on the network they watch, and Fox routinely gets twice as many viewers as either CNN or MSNBC, they generally beat on the primetime lineup. They generally beat MSNBC and CNN combined on most of the hours there. Tucker does that, and I'm pretty sure Sean does that also. Beats them, 2 to 1. I mean, just rips them to shreds on the ratings. So anyway, so there's Mayor Pete. Hey, Mayor Pete. Yay, I'm Mayor Pete. And Washington. Bernie Sanders appeared on a Fox News town hall and attracted nearly 2.6 million viewers. Go figure. Elizabeth Warren turned down a similar chance while branding the network as a hate-for-profit record. Pete Buttigieg used Fox News' own air to criticize two of his most popular personalities. Whether to appear on the top of the nation, yes, Buttigieg kind of copped out. I'll appear, but I'll stand up to them. You know, what an idiot, okay? That's why this is one of many reasons why Mayor Pete will never be president, by the way. I mean, not because he criticized these two personalities, but he had to prove. Anytime somebody's got to prove something, you got to be watch out. Like he's got like a chip on his shoulder. He has to prove he's tough. I'm tough. I got to prove to you I'm tough. Maybe he's been having to do that his whole life. I don't know. And so anybody's got something to prove, that's somebody you really can't trust because you don't know what they're going to do. So he goes on Fox. He goes on their town hall, uses their invite, and then criticizes them at the same time to prove to his base, yeah, I'm tough. I can stand up to them. No, why don't you just go on air and talk to their audience? That's the whole point. It's not to prove you're tough to your base. You don't have to go on Fox News to prove you're tough to your base. You could have just done what Warren did and said, I'm not going there, that you guys suck. Anyway, whether to appear on the nation's top-rated cable news channel has become an unlikely marker for the divergent strategies top Democrats vying for the White House are employing. They're seeking to deny a second term. There we go. They're seeking, let's see here. I just lost my place, sorry. They're seeking to deny a second term to one of Fox News Channel's most avid viewers, President Donald Trump, in forcing them to weigh the possibility of extended airtime in front of conservative audiences. It's just not a conservative audience. They get a lot of independents who just can't stand watching, pick a name, Rachel Maddow, Chris Matthews, Anderson Cooper, Don Lemon. I mean, you get tired of these guys after a while. It's the same old shit too. Everything's anti-Trump. I mean, you don't get any news. I mean, you don't get any news. I mean, you want to watch, you got to get news from somewhere. And forcing them to weigh the possibility of extended airtime in front of a conservative audience that could be impressed against possibly alienating some of their own party's primary voters, right, that's what Buttigieg did, who don't want to encourage what they see as the network's overly sympathetic relationship to the Trump administration and other Republican causes. And how they choose can sometimes say more about the candidates than anything they actually say or don't on Fox News. It's very tough to win an American election and concede blue-collar, middle-class votes. They don't, and these guys, blue-collar, middle-class voters, they don't watch MSNBC, this guy said Rory McShaney, a Las Vegas-based Republican strategist, referring to the cable network whose star commentators are left of center. They watch Fox News, right? Blue-collar, middle-class guys watch Fox News. Complicating matters is the Democratic National Committee decision in March to bar Fox News from hosting one of the party's 2020 presidential primary debates, with DNC Chairman Tom Perez saying the network isn't fair and neutral enough to do so. This, I think, was this was just totally dumb. I mean, why would you alienate a whole audience if you're trying to win those swing states back? Okay, again, if you think this is going to be a base election, okay, like, remember, they thought that in 2016. They thought it was going to be a base election in 2016, and they lost. Well, see, Obama, when he won in 2008 and 2012, he didn't run a base election. Yeah, he got his base out, don't get me wrong, but he reached out. He reached out for, like, independents. He reached out for Republicans. He used to joke. He said he always told this story where this one Republican guy walks up to him at one of his campaign stops and says, hey, I'll let you know, I voted for you. He goes, well, why are you whispering? He goes, well, I'm a Republican. He goes, well, it's okay. He goes, well, just to let you know. So, I mean, they had a big reach-out program. I mean, they reached out for Republicans, for independents, everything else. They didn't, there's no way. I mean, this is Axelrod. This is Gibbs. This is Pluff. I mean, these guys, you may not like their politics, but as far as campaigning, they know how to win, okay? So they're like, no, we're not just going to rely on the base because say something goes wrong. a la Hillary Clinton 2016, right? That's what happened to her. She ran a base election, tried to just go for a base, didn't try to go for the middle, didn't try to go for the center right. Just said, oh, no, I'm just going to win my base. That's it. I'm going to do identity politics, period. Lost. And here's Barack Obama in 2008, 2012, a black guy saying, no, I'm not just going to do identity politics. I'm going to reach out. I want white voters. I want Hispanic voters. I want middle class, working class, upper class. I want college educated. I want non-high school graduates, high school graduates, and he did. His campaign reached out huge. And so Perez, I don't know what play he's playing on the 2016 playbook, which was a loser last time I looked. He should go back and play the 2012, 2008 playbook. Go on Fox News. Go talk to these guys. Go get interviewed by these guys. Reach out to their audience. You don't have to be a dick either, like Buttigieg, and put people down either. You can just go on there and say, hey, you know what? I don't agree with a lot that I hear on Fox, but I know you have a lot of. This is how you do it. Simple. Here, I'll tell the Democrats how to do it. Look, I don't agree with a lot of your commentators have to say on your channel. I do watch it once in a while. I do watch your network every now and then. But you know what? I know you have a lot of good people watching your network, and I want to reach out to them and be able to have a conversation with them as well. Then he doesn't piss anybody off. And then, of course, people watch and go, oh, wow, this guy sounds fair. He sounds like a nice guy. Yeah, he just complimented me because I'm one of the audience he's talking about, and I'm watching. So, I mean, there you go. But no, instead he goes on and becomes a dick and puts down a couple of the commentators and stuff. But anyway, so, brilliant. And brilliant strategy, by the way. That's how you win. Well, that's actually how you lose. All right, so let's see. Let's go to this story here. And the Trump-Abe summit sparks fears of new North Korean provocation. Let's see. So he's in Japan right now. He's working on some trade stuff. Let's see. Let's get to this. This is from Guy Taylor. This was from Friday. North Korea's latest threat to engage in fiercer provocations if Washington doesn't soften its denuclearization demands. The latest example of Pyongyang using a summit of U.S. and Japanese leaders to amplify its demands. The threat came as President Trump was flying to Tokyo for talks with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Talks will include what the next steps should be in the U.S. talks with North Korea. The North Koreans have already carried out multiple weapons tests this month. Past meetings between Trump and Abe having been overshadowed by carefully timed North Korean missile provocations. Now, this story is kind of saying that they think the North Koreans may launch or something, but you know what? Let's take a look. Let's see, find the latest headline if they did anything stupid. So hold on, let me just jump over here. There you go. Let me, you get to see me now. Hey, that's me. All right, so let me just jump over, do a little quick search here to make sure. There we go. Look at the latest up-to-date headline here. Let's see. All right, take a look. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Nothing there. I don't see anything. Like nothing bad happens. Let's see. Japan, Tokyo, digs Japan for. Trump arrives in Tokyo, digs Japan for substantial edge on trade. Let's see. Trump, Japan needles U.S. ally over trade. Well, good for him. Trump praises Kim Jong-un, rails against the U.S. border wall. Let's see. Nothing there. I'm trying to find an outlet that's worth reading. Of course, all the first outlets on Google search are, Washington Post, New York Times, ABC News, LA Times, BBC. Oh, God. Time Magazine. Gee, that's funny. We can't get to, Gee, there's like no conservative outlets that have a story on this. Oh, nope, that was it. You go figure. But anyway, doesn't appear anything bad has happened, so that's a good thing. So, So just the most up-to-date news. Nothing bad has happened. So that's positive. So let me go back over here. Oh wait, I did want to cover this story. This story ticked me off. Let's see. Let me just find it here. Oh, there it is. I'm gonna read this story because let me just bring it up on the screen here real quick. All right. Missing hiker found alive after disappearing more than 2 weeks ago in Hawaii. The reason why I bring this up, and I think I've talked about this in the past when you hear about people missing, is it me or is the volume low? Is the volume low? Let's see. How's that? Is the volume better? I think I just moved away from the mic there, Jervis. How's it now? How's the volume now? Let's see. Hopefully it's better. Let me see. I'm looking at the lights going up. The lights look like they're going up pretty good. So I'll tell you what. I will keep talking because there's a 14-second delay. So you can be 14 seconds before you hear me asking you how the volume is. So just that's me talking. Me talking. So tell me if the volume's good now. Let's see. How's the volume, Mr. Jervis? How's the volume? Volume good? Volume good? Okay. Shauna says it's okay. Okay. Yeah. Jervis, I think I just kind of was back, like doing like this, like, "Hey, Jervis." I think I was just backing away from the mic when I was talking. So I think that's what happened. It's a dynamic mic. I use that because I don't live alone, and there's noise in the house. Kind of an open concept house, so noise will travel like from TV and stuff like that. So I use a dynamic mic instead of a condenser mic, which picks up a lot of surrounding sound. So I have to kind of get right up on the mic when I talk in it. And so if I kind of get a little I just kind of slush back in my seat a little bit, and I don't move the mic with me, then yeah, it'll be like I'm talking like back over here. Now if I was on a condenser mic, like the Blue Yeti, a lot of podcasts use a Blue Yeti mic. That picks up shit. You could be 2 rooms over, you can hear everything going on. So, but yeah, you got to dynamic mic. You got to get right up. Like at the fair, I wanted to use I have a really nice condenser mic, and I really wanted to use that. But as soon as I put the headsets on, I realized immediately I had to take that one down and because I was going to use 2 dynamic mics for interviews and the condenser mic for myself. They have 3 mics. And then as soon as I put the headsets on, I could hear everything going on through the condenser mic, the music, everything. So I had to switch it down. That's why I only had 1 mic for interviews and then 1 mic on me, the 2 dynamic mics. But yeah, it just is what it is, that kind of thing. So anyway, all right, let's get this story pisses me off beyond no end. You'll see why it pisses me off so much. Mainly because I used to go hunting a lot and a lot of hiking, and the idea that somebody gets lost, I have a real hard time with that concept. It's like, do you have a compass? Do you want to buy a compass? It's okay to buy a compass. And then plus, she left her cell phone in the car with her wallet. Why? I don't know. Maybe reasons. But anyway, here, let's go ahead and get to this. Need to get a mic. All I have is a mic and cam. Yeah, Shonda, what you want to do is, if you're not planning on getting like a mixer board with like an XLR mic, like like the mics guys use on stage and stuff, if you want to use like a USB mic, yeah, there are some good USB mics out there. It's not as good as a mic that would plug into a mixer board. Obviously, the quality is gonna be a little bit better, but I mean, I used a Blue Yeti mic. I think the first month I was on YouTube. It's got good sound to it. You can adjust the gain levels good to keep it down. Main thing is if you're right on the webcam, you want to make sure you don't have, like, if you're going to do any kind of typing on your laptop or desktop at the same time, you want to make sure you keep that mic off the table because any sound will pick up like that on it. You'd be surprised how much sound transfers from that. So if you notice like this boom arm here going across, like here, this is a boom arm. It's attached to a boom. Now, a lot of people don't have this kind of room to, have that kind of length, but that's okay because you can get another kind of like, I'm looking right at one. I have my phone on it, but you can get it like another. Oh, okay, no problem, Jervis. But you get like another kind of. I forget what it's called. I'm looking right at one. It's oh, whatever the hell it is. Like Axe has one. Like you see when Axes show, it's like a little. It's like a boom arm that kind of attaches to your desktop and stuff. And that's it doesn't take up much room and space. I like this one better because I have the space to use it, and it just carries it right over and hook up your mic and stuff. But yeah, if you a good USB mic would be a Blue Yeti mic. There's some other ones out there, but that's probably a good one for USB. Maybe like Email Axe. I'm pretty sure Axe has a USB mic. I think he plugs his directly into his Mac. And his sound is pretty good. So you want to maybe write Axe and emails. Hey, what mic are you using? But yeah, USB can plug directly into your laptop, directly into your desktop. But anyway, let's go and get to this story. Let's see, where was I? Oh, here I am. All right, missing hiker found alive after disappearing more than 2 weeks ago in Hawaii. Amanda Eller. Images of Amanda Eller shared on Facebook prior to her being found Friday, more than 2 weeks since being reported missing in Hawaii, via Amanda Eller's missing Facebook account. Wow. The question I have, how much money was spent looking for this lady? Okay? And is she going to pay any of it back? I'd like to know about that. Anyway, because she was irresponsible enough to go out by herself, leave her cell phone behind, and not bring a compass with her, and not have any experience on how to get in and out of somewhere. Well, I can just do this. I can just go over where I want. If I get lost, somebody will come find me. Anyway. Amanda Eller, a Maryland woman reported missing in Hawaii, was found alive Friday, more than 2 weeks since disappearing while hiking on the island of Maui. Again, it's Maui. It's not like you're in, like, Southeast Asia or something. You're on Maui, okay? I've been to Maui. I mean, there's roads everywhere. There are a lot of people that live in Maui. You'd be surprised. There's actually a whole lot of people that live on Maui. There's roads. There's all kinds of things. There's people's houses. There's lots of tourists. There's a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, rescue workers found Miss Eller, a 35-year-old yoga instructor and physical therapist, while searching by helicopter above the Makau Forest Reserve. I looked up, and they were right on top of me, Miss Eller told the New York Times. I was like, oh, my God. I just broke down and started bawling. She was subsequently airlifted to a local hospital to be treated for a broken leg, and this story is even dumb, a torn meniscus in her knee, and other injuries, the newspaper reported. The successful rescue mission capped off a 17-day search in which friends and family of the Mechanicsville native had offered a $50,000 reward for information about what they feared was a possible abduction. Miss Eller had last been seen on May 8th at a local post office, and her car was found the following day, parked near a forest trailhead with both her phone and wallet inside. Yes, just what I do when I want to go hiking. I used to go hiking back in the day before cell phones and hunting, before cell phones were popular. It was just you and a compass and you and your brains knowing which way you walked in, which way you walked out. This isn't Alaska. This isn't the movie about the bear movie with Alec Baldwin and the guy who played Hannibal Lecter, whatever his name was. And you're in Alaska where you can't use the sun as guidance as to which way is east, which way is west, which way is north, which way is south. But in Hawaii, you can. You see which way the sun is coming, and you can figure which way is north, which way is south, which way is east, which way is west. Okay? You walk in, you say, okay, I'm coming from the south, and when I go back, I have to head north, or vice versa. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And there's plenty of roads. She's at a trailhead. Okay, I want you to understand that. This is a trailhead. This is a hiking trail. I mean, this is a tourist location. She didn't just go off into like a wilderness area. This is a trailhead, okay? People go hiking. Speaking to the Times, Ms. Eller said she got lost while hiking within the more than 2,000-acre park. 2,000-acre park. Okay, I looked that up. Know what that is? That's 3 square miles. 3.1, 3.2, whatever the hell it is. Square miles. That's not a big area. Okay? Okay? Oh, and here we go. This is her. I wanted to go back the way I'd come. Yeah, good idea. But my gut was leading me another way. Why? And I have a strong gut instinct that generally probably leads her astray most of the time. I mean, I like to see what her apartment looks like. So I said my car is this way, and I'm just going to keep going until I reach it. Yes, because I'm stupid. 3 days later, this is a good one. 3 days later, she fell down a cliff that was invisible to all human sight and vision. There was no sign there was a cliff ahead of her, nothing that would actually lead her to believe was a cliff, anything like that. and she decided to fall off it. 20 feet. Well, first of all, it was 20 feet. It wasn't 200 feet. Okay? But anyway. And the following day, she lost both her shoes in a flash flood. Huh. There you go. Miss Eller was ultimately located only around 4 miles where her car was found. She was walking in a circle. The woman was walking in a circle. Look which way the sun is setting. Okay? Pick a direction. Here's a clue. What you do is, even if you don't know which way say you forgot which way you came in, say you don't have a compass on you, say you're a complete idiot, okay? Pick one direction to walk in and say, okay, the sun is over here. I'm going to walk this way. And know what you do? You keep walking in a straight line. Okay? You'll hit a road. She's in Maui. Again, she's not like in like the middle of nowhere. She's in Maui. 4 miles from her car. Oh, my God. Idiot. Just complete idiot. Anyway, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. A Facebook group that announced her discovery said that she had been found by rescue workers deep in a creek bed between two waterfalls. Well, wait. First of all, I heard she was found by the helicopter. You know. So, I guess they couldn't get her from the helicopter, so they directed these guys to go get her. Oh, and then here's her. It was 17 days, 14 days, 10 days, whatever day. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to give up. Why? Why would you want to give up? Were you just frustrated? You missed an appointment or something? I wanted to give up, Ms. Eller told the Times, but the only option I had was life or death. Wow. Jesus. I bet you can do a GoFundMe page. But the only option I had was life or death? What? How about the option was like bringing a compass? Or being smart and saying, I'm just going to walk in a straight line. Or I know the first thought she had, I was going to go the same way I came in, but I had a gut instinct. I went with it. And she kind of made it sound like her gut's generally pretty good or her, no, it's not. In other words, she knew which way her car was, but she had a different idea. Let's try this way instead. Oh, then this is the best part, because I want you to listen to this line. I am forever indebted and overwhelmed by the amount of people that came out to help me. It was pretty miraculous. No, it wasn't miraculous. There's a whole bunch of people out there taking time out of their lives to go look for you because you're an idiot, okay? There's nothing miraculous about it. You were lost, okay? You're in the state of Hawaii. They have a search and rescue team. They know you're there. What are they supposed to do? To say, well, she's an idiot. We're not going to go look for her? No, of course they have to go look for you. That's not a miracle, okay? And how much money did it cost? How much money was spent looking for this one idiot who couldn't bring a compass with her or couldn't just walk back the same way she came? 2,000-acre park. Again, that's 3 square miles. That's not a big area. So when she says she's forever indebted, I'd be like, okay, here's the bill. Write us a check. Oh, well, I mean, I don't mean it like that. I mean, I just mean whatever you need. Well, I need a check. Oh, well, no, I'll tell you what, I want to do some community service then? Don't go home right away. You can stay here and do some work. Well, I got to go. Bye. Clicking. Anyway, here's a story of an idiot. And hopefully nobody's going, oh, this is such a great story. Oh, she survived. Oh. Let's read that. I want to read this line again. I wanted to give up, but the only option I had was life or death. Oh, my God. Oh, wish you could hear me laugh. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, again, it's 3 square miles. It wasn't like she landed, came out of a plane on a parachute and just got dumped in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't like she's doing some kind of SEAL team SEER training. It's like, okay, now find your way out of this place you've never been before and with no roads around. There are roads. This is a state park. Okay, this is like, there are like roads and people driving. She probably heard cars. She's only 4 miles from her car. I guarantee there were other cars in the area. I mean, she must have been hiding from the rescue team. I mean, they must have been going looking for her, and she must have been like hiding. Then she falls off a cliff. I mean, why? Why would you fall off a cliff? It's like you see a cliff. You say, gee, I'm going to try to climb down that. Well, considering her decision-making ability was pretty bad up at that point, otherwise she trusted it any further. And a lot of times they say if you're lost, just sit down. Don't move even. They'll say like just find some high ground, right? So the helicopter can see you or something. Find some high ground, and then plus you don't get caught in a flash flood. Also, and lose your shoes, which is really stupid. And what kind of shoes did she have that she lost them in a flash flood? Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, think about this. Like, okay, if you're hiking, like you were like, hiking boots that are laced up and stuff, real tight on you. Like, was she wearing like high heel shoes? Was that what she was wearing? I mean, how did she lose them in a flash flood? I don't know. Did she take them off and leave them next to her? Well, you don't take your boots off and leave them like on the ground or anything with bugs to crawl in. So it must have been the kind of shoes that can come off easily in water. So they weren't like hiking shoes. It just like, oh, I'm gonna go for a walk in the woods. Oh yeah, why not? Oh, my cell phone. Oh, they could track me if I get lost. No, because we know Maui has no cell phone coverage. Of course it does. Of course it does. I mean, I don't know, unless you have like an Obama phone like that lady that called in the other night, where the battery only lasts for 20 minutes. Then, you're on your own at that point. Sorry. But anyway, yeah, no kidding, you Jervis. Yeah, flip-flops. Yeah, no shit. Would you wearing flip-flops? I'm going to go hiking in the woods wearing flip-flops. Oh, I lost them in a flash flood. Well, how come you wore that on high ground? Oh, and what were you doing falling down a cliff? Well, she's one of the people like when she's walking, if this was your date and you're walking her through the mall, you constantly are grabbing onto her, and she thinks like you're grabbing her because you love her. No, you're grabbing her because you're like directing her, to keep her from walking into people. You're like, oh no, don't go that way. Oh wait, no. Oh honey, you love me so much. Yeah, I love you so much, but I don't want you walking into this column. I don't want you walking to that guy. I don't want you walking, to this little kiosk. She's probably like looking over her shoulder while she's walking. Next thing, here comes this cliff. Donk. But anyway. So, Amanda Eller, you get to be famous for a day, or 17 days, or whatever days. Anyway. But anyway, that's pretty much all the stories I wanted to cover tonight. I thought it was a pretty nice selection, especially that last one. That was too funny. But I want to thank everybody who's joined us in the chat, everybody who's been viewing us tonight, everybody who'll be viewing us later. I want to thank all the wonderful people out there. And remember Trump 2020, and like the zombie said, well, that was me speaking over the zombie. But, hey, don't take this one for granted. It's like this. We got to get out there and work. So make sure everybody's out there working. Talk to your friends. If you got some time, maybe volunteer at a local congressional office, Republican congressional office, or state assembly or state senator's office. Even doesn't have to be the national campaign because everybody's kind of like doing direct mailings. I mean, if you think you can't do something, trust me, I guarantee you they can find something for you to do. Okay, guaranteed. And so make sure you guys get out there and do it. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody. I want to tell everybody have a great night. And until next time, this is Carl for Carl's Opinion. Have a good one, guys. Take care. So anyway, anyway, big shout out to Shonda and Jervis for sticking through the whole evening. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.